A little while ago, I had talked to you guys about an accessory that looked kind of interesting because it could possibly solve one of the biggest issues with the Switch, which tends to be its ergonomics, specifically on that right thumb, right where that left or that right joystick is when you have it in handheld mode, tends to be a bit awkward. Kind of gives you that claw thumb, right? That's what a lot of people will say. If they have medium to larger hands, you tend to get kind of cramps. So one thing people have suggested is, well, what if you took it and you made both sticks symmetrical at the top, right? Similar to what we saw with the Wii U, where they were doing that, rather than have it kind of offset in this weird angle. Well, iPega made an accessory for that. We had talked about it before, and, well, I have it. And it actually might be one of the weirdest accessories for the Switch so far. Now, I remember this originally had some name like the Tomahawk and then a bunch of numbers. However, on the box that they send it to you in, it doesn't say anything. There's no, that I can see anyway, no real markings or anything. It just says for N Switch and then iPega. So today, let's take a look at the Tomahawk from iPega. So as I said, it comes in this white and red box. iPega on the top here shows off the I guess you'd call that a controller grip, if you will, game controller for N Switch. It took about 3 weeks, I would say, to get here or so, maybe 2 to 3 weeks, somewhere in there. But it is designed to connect directly to the bottom of the Switch. Again, we had talked about this in a video about how it's going to plug in and act like a controller, kind of on the bottom plugged in, and then it gives you symmetrical thumbsticks, which is something that kind of caught me by surprise a bit because it also has a D-pad and then of course all of the other buttons right there. So they've basically switched the thumbstick on the right side with the buttons. So I was interested, and here it is. It's very light. There's not a lot going on in here from what I can tell. Mostly because there's no rumble, there's no gyro, there's no NFC. They've pretty much taken everything out of it. Now, third-party controllers will do this, right? We've seen this. Third-party controllers won't have anything in it. It's just the way it is. Now, some do, but for the most part, we'll buy them expecting not to have things like motion controls or NFC. NFC is the big one. That's the one that tends to get left out a lot. And HD Rumble, of course, which is something that only Nintendo has used so far. Their special Rumble, we'll say. But this one is kind of interesting at face value because it does have a D-pad. It does have symmetrical sticks, which might be better for people, like I said, with larger hands. Has everything else around it. So let's go ahead and drop in the Switch. Now, the way this works is you, of course, have to remove your Joy-Cons, and then you have to slide it in. The way this kind of grabs it, it doesn't have any type of railings or anything. The way this works is it has foam, kind of rubberized foam almost on the side, and it's just reacting through friction to hold it, and then of course the port on the bottom. So there's no real locking mechanism. Something that I think would have been better to have, like for example, if you push it down far enough, there is some sort of spring-loaded tab here that clicks over the Switch, and then you of course would have some kind of button that would release both. I think that would have been better, but it does grab it fairly snug because you get a nice click when it plugs in, but it's not in there enough to where it wouldn't just pop out just by pulling on it. The way this works is it is detected currently as a wired controller. So for example, when I go into controllers, it's seen here as a Pro controller through USB. So the gyro functionality unfortunately won't work or anything, and it doesn't have any type of rumble or anything like that. So you're gonna have to keep that in mind. You're losing a lot of features. Now these sticks are full travel, so they will tilt back and forth like you would say similar to a 360 or an Xbox One or PlayStation 4 controller. It's not like the Joy-Con joysticks where they are limited in travel. They are the full stick, which is good overall, specifically for shooters, for example. All right, now that my app loaded up, let's go ahead and jump into the tried and true Super Mario World. Check out the D-pad very quickly. I will say, looking around it, it is a bit large, as you can tell. It's not little, so your Switch, which was borderline portable, is definitely not portable anymore. So keep that one in mind. Let me go ahead and jump into the old starting file here, and we'll run through very quickly to see how this goes. The D-pad is, I guess I would say, sharp. like the edges feel kind of sharp. It does seem to work all right. It is a bit smaller as well. It's a little larger, I would say, than a 3DS D-pad, but not by much. So you're gonna wanna keep that in mind. It's not like a large forgiving D-pad. You have to be pretty precise with your button presses. However, it does appear to be working fairly well, and you're gonna, I guess, have to decide if this is better for you than the 4 buttons that you have on your Joy-Cons, but I do always prefer, me personally, a decent D-pad, even over like what we have for the Joy-Cons now, which are obviously 4 buttons. So not bad for the D-pad, but it's certainly not great. I can kind of press down really hard and get to the middle and kind of roll around. So we'll have to see, because we're gonna open this up, we'll see how it is inside, but so far it's not a great D-pad is what I'll say. Now A, B, X, and Y on here, they're not clicky like the Joy-Con buttons, they're more like the Pro Controller buttons, so they have some travel to them, has a rubber membrane under them and everything. So once again, if you don't like the clicky buttons and you prefer to have something that is, I guess you would consider portable or handheld, that has those, you would be in good shape with these, I would say. The travel's a little more than I would like, and it does still almost feel like it gets kind of stuck. Look, it's a cheap device. It's $30 for the whole thing, so I wasn't expecting, you know, high level quality or anything. But if you prefer the mushy buttons, I guess you'll like these a little more. I think my biggest issue with the thumbsticks is they feel just a little too loose. So with the travel being so far, like it has insane travel, which isn't bad for a shooter. I think it needs to tighten it a little bit. The tension is just not there in these thumbsticks, and that will annoy you when you're playing like a Doom, or I can even kind of feel it when I'm playing Zelda right now. It just doesn't feel as responsive, or I guess just as solid. They feel like cheaper thumbsticks, which I guess it's iPega, so you'd expect that. Unfortunately, I can't recommend these thumbsticks just because of how loose they are. If they were just not even a little tighter, I would say a fair amount tighter, this might feel a bit more quality. Seriously, just little things like thumbsticks being tightened can do that, can actually make it feel like a more quality product. Now on the top here, we have R2, L2, L, and R. They're not, of course, analog, they are clicky. As we'd expect, the Switch wouldn't take advantage of analog thumbsticks, or analog triggers for now, I should say. Right now, anyway, and there could always be an update. They don't feel very good, specifically if you hit it closer to like where R is. So let's say you're holding here and maybe it slips down and press. It feels kind of junky, kind of cheap right there, I would say. Not a fan of these triggers at all. Even with L and R, you can kind of hear them. That is not a satisfying crunch when you're pressing that down. Unfortunately, these triggers and the shoulder buttons, not very good. There's not much to see on the back here. They did open up some vents so that air can kind of flow in and then go up the top. We've seen that before with many accessories, so this really isn't that surprising to see. So now let's go ahead and open this guy up. Removing it isn't too bad. Like I said, it's not loose, but it's also not as strong of a grip as I would like. Let's say if it was clicked in, like, you know, some kind of clip at the top. But I guess it technically gets the job done with kind of the rubberized foam on the side here. Looking on the back, it looks like we have a couple of different spots here that I have to pretty much pop out to get to what I assume to be Phillips head screws, so we'll see. So they did indeed hide 2 more screws down here. No big deal though, lift that guy right off there. I think one of the triggers went with it, the other one stayed, but we'll get that out of there. And looking at this, it's kind of what I figured it would be. It's just a few boards connected with a ribbon cable through the middle here, where our connector actually runs down and around to this guy, so this cable just goes right past it. And I mostly wanted to look at, I guess while I'm in here, specifically the D-pad. So we'll go on this side here that houses it. So this is one of the most basic D-pads I think I've ever seen. I mean, seriously, you look at the D-pad itself, large spike in the middle, which is fine. And then it sits right here on top of what is a very tough rubber membrane that it pushes down on, 2 points per inside, and that's pretty much it. I mean, it doesn't feel amazing. It's probably I would say below average D-pad in general, and it kind of does this weird thing where it juts up on the outside just a little too much, and it's actually feels kind of sharp even on the edges here. So not a great D-pad overall inside. I mean, it'll get the job done, but it's definitely not like a higher quality one, which it's iPega. They definitely shoot for, I would say, the lower end market. And then we have our thumbstick here, which is a basic thumbstick. It reminds me of ones off of kind of like the cheaper knockoff controllers that we've seen before. So it is a full thumbstick, which I guess is good. So you won't have the similar drifting issues you see with Joy-Con controllers. However, these still drift at times, right? Like, they're not immune to drifting or anything, but it's definitely not going to be as common as what you see with the Joy-Cons themselves. And then this is the main board here that controls everything. That's why the USB-C port runs to it. And it also has an LED up here to do like the red power on the front. So as I put this guy back together, let's talk a little bit about, I guess, my closing thoughts on, what are we gonna call it? The iPega Tomahawk, and then some numbers apparently. It's an interesting idea. I like kind of having options for grips for the Switch specifically, because I do think it needs it. I know Nintendo, of course, released it so that it was designed to work with multiple people if you want to pass a Joy-Con. The Switch Lite still kind of runs in that issue with the placement of that right joystick. However, we are getting more and more grips for that now as well. I think having a third-party grip would be interesting if it remakes everything like this one, but at a higher quality. iPega, like I said before, has been known to be cheaper with cheaper parts, so the price is cheaper because of that, and that's fine because that's the market they want to tackle. But I wouldn't mind seeing another company take this on, maybe make it sleeker and a bit more quality, at least feeling in the hands, because this does not feel very sturdy at all or quality. So I don't think I would recommend this for people to pick up or even take another look at. I think you could just find a better grip yourself online. There's a couple. There's like the Skull grip. There's the Satisfy grip. There are ones that it would at least work without replacing all the controls, and is, I think, a little cheaper even. This is $30, whereas you can find other grips for $20, even less than that. So now, iPega, unfortunately, not a recommendation from me, but I like kind of where they're going with the idea, and I hope to see a bit more maybe from another company, because I don't think iPega is going to tackle the high-end market, or at least a high-quality device. Thanks, guys, for watching. Let me know what you think about, I guess, this iPega grip, or the idea of other companies coming in, trying to do something similar with it, just maybe a bit better. Make sure you like the video on the way out if you enjoyed it, and get subscribed for more tech teardowns as we go forward. I got some other stuff to check out as well, so interesting stuff coming. Thanks, guys, for watching, and I'll see you next time.